Hello, Matthew Sweigart here with a little more armchair philosophy. I've had a really fascinating day or two, the last 2 days with Valentine's Day celebrations yesterday. So the night before and into the night of, and then to the sleep before and after Valentine's Day. Interestingly enough, I had a dream, and I wanted to share today a little bit about my dreams, knowing that I may be subject to someone out there watching this who knows dream interpretation and they'll want to interpret me, which will be fine. I don't mind. So, the first dream was waking up on Valentine's Day. And it was a beautiful dream. I had this image of the last living icon, a love so pure it transcends all previous ideas of love. It is good to have a skeptical mind. Yet once you have seen and experienced this love, there is no longer any questioning. If we are to rename a holiday, it must be from this most high and clear place that everyone can see. And yet, it is good to have a skeptical mind. Question everything. Do not simply take it on faith. Feel it, experience it, let it sink into your being without expectation. Now, in this dream, a simple band of peoples realizes a certain apotheosis, a certain transcendent growth toward being that last living icon. There's a certain psychotropic quality or substance that is ingested that brings about this state of realization. In this dream, the ingestion took place by way of a pair of wires inserted into the mouth. Now, it's strange. I don't quite grasp it, yet there it is. So, there's a struggle in the dream between the old forces of superiority and ranking and comparison and duality. And there are those who gather who have seen the truth of this new icon and the light, and they gather to reach for language that will express it in such a way that others will also see this light and realize this truth of the last living icon. Now, there are some rather contentious conversations between members of this group, the group of new believers, of new experiences, that lead to some deep conversations about the nature of this realization. A young woman new to the ideas comes to visit. A young woman new to the ideas comes to visit. She's found her way to the right place. She meets the last living icon. She calls him by the name Matthew. I get to play that role and welcome her to a new living realization of this truth. I'm reading this, by the way. You notice I keep looking down. She's skeptical. I ask her whether I came on too strongly, and then she can have as much time as she likes to figure out if this is for her or not. I encourage her in her skeptical mind. Now, earlier, prior to this meeting with this young woman, there was an encounter. I want to say it was a battle. The group of new believers went to a location where there was another group gathered, and they were gathered around what the new group of believers would call a false leader, a false prophet. Thank you. I mean, they do need to undertake a certain confrontation between the old believers and the new believers. And in this confrontation, the new believers prevail. And the old believers convert to become new believers. It's all quite fantastical. Now, that dream was a lot of fun. So there was a deep realization of this image of the last living icon. It was good, good, good. All right. And I just said thank you. I woke up on Valentine's Day with gratitude. And I'm sensitive that I'm building these little videos with a certain eye that they'd be lasting 5 minutes. But I set this up to talk about the next day's activities as well. And so I'm going to talk about now the realizations that came to me going to sleep on the Valentine's Day holiday. Now, you have to understand, I have been reading Somerset Maugham's book of Human Bondage. Now, this is a nearly 600-page novel, and I got it in a hard copy years ago, and I just started reading it. And then I realized that I'm under the influence of this writer, much as I was once under the influence of F. Scott Fitzgerald, who was kind of a contemporary. And they were both writing about this era of love and romance between men and women that was still very much in the old model of women are property. And for a woman to own property, they had to link their star to a man. And so I've been reading the novel, and last night I dipped into the movie. There is a Hollywood movie of Human Bondage that was made starring Betty Davis and a couple of other no names, at least none that I recognize. People would recognize them from the day, I imagine. But it was really an intense drama. And I haven't even gotten to that part of the story yet, but I realized that I've been under the influence of this for years. And now, when I went to bed last night, I tossed and turned all night. I mean, I swear I didn't sleep a wink. That book of Human Bondage, as well as the movie, it has me going. And it's the sense is that my heart is not in a place where it's safe. Now, putting two and two together, I realized that I was a great fan of F. Scott Fitzgerald back in my college years. Tender is the Night, This Side of Paradise. And he's famous for The Great Gatsby, of course, which has also got a little bit of a sordid love affair in it as well. But Tender is the Night and This Side of Paradise are really romantic novel stories. And I'm also under the influence of some of the lyrics of Lorenz Hart, Rodgers and Hart. And you may recall My Funny Valentine or There and Then. That was another one of Lorenz Hart's songs. And so those lyrics, I mean, Lorenz Hart was a deeply troubled man. I mean, that man never found a joyous kind of romantic experience in love. He was always being snubbed, and ultimately he drank himself to death and took his own life. It was really quite kind of a sad story, but he wrote some amazing songs meanwhile. And so the lyrics were really kind of compelling. So I realized that I'm kind of soaked and even perhaps stuck in this early 20th century version of the male-female agreement. That was twisted by the cultural emphasis on male domination and female submission. They're locked in, no way out. The bondage of love and marriage and subsequent suffering and adulation therefrom. So that was my parents' and grandparents' experience, and it was captured by the authors of that time. And it was also delivered to my epigenetics as unfinished business. So my spirit does not always easily rest in my heart. It feels frequently battered and in a tortured place. I find little wonder in the fact that my mothers and an aunt or two of mine sought refuge in the church. I have a feeling that my aunts and mother who were married were actually imprisoned in their marriages. They really had no place else to go. So this is a really interesting realization that I'm working to heal at this point. And I had a conversation with a colleague who was able to share that, was it the marriage they were imprisoned by, or was it themselves? And, I think there's these cultural components that gave women no choice other than to marry. If they wanted to have property and they wanted to have safety and they wanted to have security and they wanted to have home and hearth, they needed to get married or join a convent. So those were basically the choices that women had at the time. And to be able to really experience your full individuality, I mean, that's rare. And it's, of course, necessary for a healthy relationship is that it's between two individuals, two fully realized individuals, hopefully. And so there we get into this place of healing and connection to what may be actually a divine essence, the divine masculine, the divine feminine. That would be devoutly to be wished. The truth is, in human form, that's not always easily achieved. And so these were my ruminations for Valentine's Day. And I'm going to just let you sit with those ideas right now of bonds and bondage and marriage and love and the last living icon and non duality and moving toward divine masculine and divine feminine and healing the wounds that would stick us in a place of bondage where we don't feel free to fully be ourselves. And that I wish for all beings that they may feel an experience of liberation and freedom to be themselves in this complicated cultural milieu of our world. And I honor the authors from the earliest 20th century that I have been enthralled by for years, and then the realization that, this is my epigenetic endowment. That was left to me. My parents and my grandparents grew up in those times. And that's what they knew of love. And that's what I witnessed as a child, experiencing the quality of their love as I search for what it means to love in a healthy way as the being that I am. No last living icon here, but transcendent to the place of a certain realization of the divine masculine in my being. All right. Good luck out there. Everybody have a good day. And that's my entry for today. Hope you have a good day. Bye.